This video came about as the direct result of some research I was doing about the relationship between specific colors and the 12 tribes of Israel.
While I was marking certain passages of scripture, trying to keep track of which tribes they were talking about, I realized that the word Zarahemla was improperly hyphenated, and that it had direct reference to a story in Genesis 38. And while the story of the relationship between Tamar and Judah is strange to say the least, I will leave it to the reader to do their own research, and here simply state that this chapter is about Tamar's great desire to become a mother, and the lengths to which she is willing to go to become pregnant and secure the birthright for her firstborn son, and how the birth of her twin sons complicates determining this birthright. Because the brother who put his hand out first, the one that the midwife tied the red scarlet thread around, is eventually denied the right to rule, and his twin Pharez becomes the bloodline of the kings. Exactly how that happened is a discussion for another time. What is important to understand here is how that decision impacted world history 900 years later. At the time, Lehi and his family were leaving Jerusalem, because Josiah, king of the great religious reformation at the time of Jeremiah, had unexpectedly gotten himself killed at a young age, which left Jerusalem subject to the outside political influences of both Egypt and Babylon, as the Jews tried to determine which of his 4 sons should be the next king. There are 2 things that are critical to remember here. First, we are talking about the bloodline legal leader of the tribe of Judah, and that according to Orthodox Hebrews, the bloodline of an individual is maternal, meaning it is determined through their mother, which is why the author of 2 Kings is so careful to denote the mother of each of the successive rulers, as the monarchy changes hands 4 times in the next 15 years, which begins when the Jews themselves anoint Jehoahaz to be their next king, who is promptly dethroned by the same Pharaoh who killed his father, and replaced by his half-brother Eliakim, who got an unwanted name change and an outrageous tax in the form of an annual tribute paid to Pharaoh, in an arrangement that lasts a little over a decade before Pharaoh Necho is himself defeated on the field of battle by the king of Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar consequently inherits all of Pharaoh's vassal states and streams of revenue. So the Jews start paying their tribute money to Babylon until Jehoiakim decides that 14 years of this kind of taxation isn't okay, and leads a short, ill-fated rebellion that eventually leaves his son Jehoiachin to reign in his stead. By way of quick review, the kingdom of Judah has now gone through Jehoaz, Eliakim, and Jehoiachin in less than 14 years. When Nebuchadnezzar, in an apparent attempt to avoid all-out warfare, sends his servants to collect the entire royal household and puts them under house arrest in Babylon, and puts Mattaniah, the 3rd half-brother, on the throne as the 4th king to rule Jerusalem in just 15 years. And like his half-brother a decade earlier, Mattaniah got a mandatory name change. The whole point of this review being to understand both the political and scriptural implications of Zedekiah's appointment, because Nebuchadnezzar made a critical error when he appointed the half-brother Mattaniah to be the king, because as a Chaldean he thought that any of the sons of the king were legitimate heirs to the throne. And he failed to understand that for the Jews, only the sons of certain mothers were eligible to lead the tribe, and that he had picked a half-brother whose mother made him ineligible to lead the tribe. And while his mother was unquestionably of noble birth, as recorded by the author of 2 Kings, she was of the wrong branch of the family tree, going back more than 1,000 years to Genesis 38. And why does that matter? Because it explains why, when her son, Mattaniah, was made king by Nebuchadnezzar and his name changed to Zedekiah, he knew by the prophecies of Jeremiah that his reign would be a short one, and that his primary focus needed to be to preserve his bloodline. Through his infant son Mulek, in a daring clandestine voyage, where Mulek was taken to a new land, and why the capital city in this new land was not named after this prince, Zedekiah's legal heir. Rather, it was named after their ancient ancestor, as a bold and very direct statement about exactly who they were and precisely why they had done it. To preserve a bloodline, a birthright, and the ancient relics that go with it.